So what's up first on your Hooptober list?
I don't know.
Is that because you don't have it pulled up?
Thought into it. Wow. That's a part of the reason, right? I feel like it's a multifaceted question you're asking me here. And by that I mean it actually just has a singular facet, and that is one that I'm unprepared to answer.
I'm pulling up your list now.
I am as well. Ricky's
You've got some
list. I'm working on it.
The Evil Dead run. You're gonna have a lot of fun with that. That's gonna be good.
Yeah.
I would save those. I would watch something else, like, that is less certain to be good first.
Oh, I have the Thing remake on here.
You do have the Thing remake on here.
I might watch the Thing remake.
It's fine. You know?
Yeah.
I had a good time with it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No Kurt Russell, though, so that's...
Yeah.
That's kind of a distinct, point away from it, right?
Yeah. But, some of the creature stuff in it is good. It
Okay.
is, the effects aren't as great, but it's, it's still fun. It's still ooey gooey, gross creature shit, so.
Yeah, that's what we're here for, the ooey and the gooey.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not talking website design. Shout out all my GUI interface. I think I stands for interface.
Interface, yeah, I was gonna say. You watch anything else lately?
Not really. No. I did watch Godzilla -1. Yeah, because nice. I thought it was Godzilla 0 before, and I was like, it's not 0, and I was saying that in my head, and I'm like, oh, God 0, right? Like, no, Godzilla -1, and that was really cool. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't watching it like critically though. Like I just fun. Threw it on because I was like, oh shit, like I was like scrolling Netflix and I was like, Godzilla movie? Don't mind if I do. So yeah. It was great for that. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Are you a big Godzilla fan? Or kaiju fan?
Yeah. I like a lot of kaiju movies. I've seen some of the earlier Godzilla films, and I like those. Like the sort of goofier, like live action ones.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I like those a lot. I mean, the newer ones are really cool too, and I've seen a few of them, but I don't really remember them too much. I just sort of like file them into like action monster movie, and like that's where they go.
Yeah.
But the one where he had like the atomic breath.
There's a few. The new series, you mean?
Yeah. It was definitely an older one, like, because I feel like I watched it like between 5 and 10 years ago, and I remember the noise it makes like so distinctly. It's just like, and like,
yeah.
I just remember him. I think he was fighting another monster. I think it was like It might have been Mothra.
No,
no.
Yeah, but anyway.
Wow.
We don't have to get into the lore of the Godzilla movies.
I just remember he held the monster down and did the and I was like, let's fucking go!
Yeah, that's from the 2014 one, I believe. So, pretty good stuff.
Hell
yeah. That movie's fun. Yeah. Those movies are like...
10 years ago exactly, too. That's kind of...
Yeah.
Oof, that's crazy.
2014, yeah. Those movies are all over the map. Like, some of them are like... really fun and dumb. Like the latest one that they did was really fun and dumb, Godzilla X Kong, and then some of them are just like, why are we even doing this? Why are you trying to force human stories into this movie?
So -1 was a bit like that, right? Like there was definitely, it was like more of the human side than I was like expecting or like signed up for. I mean, which was still good. I enjoyed it, but like I really wanted to see Godzilla, right? Like that was a thing. And a lot of the cool like water scenes too, which I appreciated with it. So it was cool.
Yeah, that movie is Jaws. Like it's best when
yeah.
It's good.
When it's not being Jaws, it's
fine.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. You watch anything new lately?
Yeah, I just watched for Hooptober. I finished the Psycho series, so I watched the 3 sequels. I did that yesterday. That was fun. It was very rewarding. I was worried picking like a franchise to watch everything for, because horror franchises, let's be honest, they can vary in quality. And this one did, but there were a lot of interesting ideas, and it was cool to see Anthony Perkins kind of take the character through each movie, because he was he even directed the third one. So watching his like take on the character and just like the different kind of like approaches that they had to the story, like what story to tell, was fun. The second one, like the direct sequel to the original, that movie was really good. Like shockingly, I was pretty surprised by how good it was. Very like complex psychology and not the expected, direction of a story of like, I kind of was thinking like, oh, each of these movies is just going to be like, he's running the hotel again and he's going to kill people. But it wasn't that, which was cool. So I won't spoil anything because that movie opens kind of like really ballsy. The second one does. So, but it's good. It was really fun.
Yeah, pretty sweet. I was just looking it up now. I actually didn't know that there were sequels to it. And we talked before about how Psycho was like such an institution that people were like scandalized that they remade it.
But there were 3 sequels already to it, so it's kind of like, is it that big of a deal? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say. Like, were those treated with like derision when they first came out? Like, no?
I don't think so. I mean, probably like people were like, oh, whatever, they're making sequels, but I don't think they were treated with the same amount of scorn. More like, oh, this is just a cash grab, not like this is an affront to art or something.
Yeah. Like me with Avatar.
Yeah, it's well, like Jaws has 3 sequels too. Not to bring up Jaws now twice.
Interesting. Yeah.
But they haven't made a sequel since the late 80s for Jaws, and like, if they were to remake it today or like try and do a reboot, it would be scandalous, I think. And people would be like, this is a sacred like piece of art in, American pop culture history. And it's like, well, there have been sequels and there's a Universal Studios ride and there's video games. Like, it's fine, actually.
Yeah. I feel like once they got to like Sharknado, which is like, I get not related to Jaws, but like once that's released as a movie, it's like, like, come on. You're looking at any shark movie. Yeah, it's like, come on. All bets are off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus,
that's pretty cool though.
Yeah. Well, and any kind of remake in that way, in the vein of like the Psycho that we talked about, like, I don't know. It's clearly not just a soulless cash grab. So even if it sucks, even if it's weird and uncomfortable or like campy or whatever, it's still fun. It's better than just like, let's make Ghostbusters Afterlife or whatever.
Right. Yeah. I hate endless reboots. But it would be really cool to see how they try to adapt Jaws to like modern day, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. That would be really neat. Yeah, well,
I'm saying I think we need to reboot it. I'm 100% serious. Like I'd be into it. I don't think of those things as precious. I think we need to redo Citizen Kane too, to be honest. I think that's a story that's like begging for a... I think you could do like, this is going to sound completely brain rotted, but I think you could do like Citizen Kardashian, not literally have Kim Kardashian in it, but like, I think that story can be updated very easily with like a mogul, like an internet mogul type, or like a, not that it needs to be updated even. I think these movies could all continue to take place in their original context and be good, but yeah, I think that's a story that's timeless. So
it is. Well, I think a lot of like contention, or like the biggest contention point would come down to like, what is the Rosebud, right? Like what do you make it? Well, what do you make it in a new film, right?
No, I know. Well, I mean, it could still be a sled. Spoilers for.
Oh yeah, spoilers.
Well-known movie of all time.
Yeah,
because it just has to be a toy from the person's childhood, or like a symbol of their childhood. It doesn't have to be like updated for the modern age. People still go sledding.
People do still go sledding. I loved going sledding as a kid. That shit was great. I feel like named sleds aren't really a big of a thing anymore, right? Like, it's just kind of like, oh, this is a hunk of plastic. Were they ever? Like, injection molded plastic. I don't know, were they? Like, obviously, like, Rosebud was like, I guess the company that sold them, right? Or maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like that style of
I don't know. Yeah. Let's dig him up. We'll ask him.
Dig him up right now. Start knocking on that coffin door. I just had a real quick question. Oh, you know what we could do? We could open a portal to the ghost dimension, because, you know, it's overflowing over there, and have them flow out through technology, and then we could ask them directly.
Do you want to introduce the podcast? Since we're so itching to make this transition as awkward as possible.
I thought it was a good reference. Anyway.
It was good. It was good.
Yeah. So this is We Want to Watch. My name's Ricky. I did that as Lane was taking a sip of soda.
Yeah, my name is Lane. I am drinking another one of these Oreo Coca-Cola.
Yeah, you're hooked.
Remixes. I am.
It's not even a can anymore. It's the bottle now.
No, I know. I didn't want to buy the cans. Gonna come back,
you'll have like a 2-liter on screen. You're like, I don't know, Rick.
Knowing that they're limited edition has me.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I'm like, I gotta. Yeah.
Well, while they're here, you know, I gotta try them once or twice, right?
True, for a limited time.
Have you tried the Oreos yet?
No, I didn't see the Oreos in the store. I only see these. Fair. This is a podcast where we talk about movies that we want to watch, and we're continuing our We Want a Whale series. Wow. Should I put I was gonna say, should I put like a sound effect in whenever we say that every week? Because it's too late. I kind of like one. Yeah.
Oh well, I mean, if it's too late, then
those old episodes are in the can. But you know, maybe moving forward. And we continued this week with the movie Pulse from 2001, directed by Kiyoshi Kurosawa. This was Elaine's frame. This replaced Saw, a movie that I know you've heard of, but I don't think you had seen. This was originally this Elaine's frame was going to be Saw,
right?
But I was like, let's watch something that's not in English, something not American, you know, just so that we can kind of get a bit of a broader perspective on all these horror movies.
Yeah. We don't want to be basic with it. And I think this was a really good pull. I enjoyed large parts of the movie. I don't know. I think we can sort of discuss it. I mean, I'll get right into it. I'll say the back half of the film, where they like keep explaining more and more of it.
Yeah.
Didn't grip me. Wasn't. Yeah. The beginning's super creepy and super eerie. It really pulls you in. And then once we get like the tech mogul kid, you know, the like young Mark Zuckerberg, who's like, actually, I computed my way into the
yeah.
Look at the pipes. You see the pipes? What's in those pipes? Souls. I was like, yeah, okay, cool. But like, it felt like they just didn't try to go back to that creepy, weird sort of like era or feeling after that. Which is it was so shocking too, because like before that, like we're literally seeing people like killing themselves and stuff. And I mean, that does happen later in the film, but not with the same sort of weight or intention behind it, I guess. I don't know. It's just my take on it.
I wouldn't expect anything else from you. But
wow.
I agree.
Sheesh.
The front half of this movie does a really good job setting up atmospherically all of the, you know, creepy kind of like techno horror pieces, and then after the things start exploding, like they're like explosions in the city, and like you know, this like kinds of signs of like apocalyptic, you know, imagery. It just it becomes too big, you know. And I know this is a movie you have not seen, but another movie from this director, a previous movie, and the one that kind of inspired me to pick this one, Cure, is the name of it. That movie really scared me. I mentioned this last week. It scared the shit out of me when I watched it, and it has a similar, not the same kind of atmosphere as the first half of this movie, but it's very contained and small, in the sense that, like, all of the horrible events that are happening, they feel like very, very heavy, but they are very individual based, or like very kind of isolated feeling, which kind of makes it seem lonely and just creepier in that way. Whereas, and it continues that kind of throughout the whole movie. Whereas this, because of the just like nature of like exponential growth of these like ghosts kind of like vanishing people, it becomes everything. It just feels too big and not as like, not as like existential almost, because it's happening to the whole world. So yeah, it's not as moving. Also.
Yes. Yeah. And they sort of just like, I don't know, remove the eerie side of things, where it's like, it's not going for that, which is like such a shame, because I don't know, the beginning of the film, especially like I guess the first 45 minutes or so, like it had me sort of like looking around, like looking behind me, and I was like, oh man, this is weird.
There's some great imagery, like the and we can talk more about the early internet kind of imagery or like symbols and creepiness around that. But even just the thing that sticks with me the most is the mold on the walls. Like and like talking to that, like talking to a stain, like that's really fucking weird and creepy. But then you see like go ahead.
I was gonna say the unregistered hypercam, like I remember, so like that I never really knew about that, like I don't know, the fact that like that was like a thing, but I learned when I was working in the kitchen, someone was like, hey, like snow looks beautiful outside. I was like, yeah, no, it's really cool. And they're like, oh, check out this live stream, and it's like the traffic light cameras from like that corner, right? Which is like, they're like just it's like publicly hosted online, just like randomly. I was like, oh, you can just like look that stuff up and find it. They're like, yeah, it's just out there. I was like, what the fuck? And they're like, yeah, you can like hit random and just see like a bunch of random shit. I was like, what? And there's like, they have them in like zoos and stuff too, so like they're like, yeah, like you can check out like these like eagles, and I was like, what is this, man? So applying that to I was just gonna say, like, applying that to like techno horror is like very, very cool. It's like really intriguing too, to see, I don't want to say like a parallel dimension almost, but I mean it does kind of like play around with that, and then like the way that sort of creates I mean, they play with the idea of like technology creating distance between people, yada yada, like they're so alone, whatever. Which is like also like yeah, sure, I get it. I feel like that's like really well trodden ground after this point. But
after
when this movie
25
came out,
years,
right. When this movie came out, that was probably like crazy, you know.
Yeah. The technology isolating folks, like that as a metaphor, I don't know, I like it, I appreciate it, but it does feel almost quaint after so long. So it's because it's like, it's kind of funny to be like, oh, the internet's gonna be bad because people are like not really talking to each other face to face. It's like, no, that's really not the problem. It's so it seems so much worse now. I would kind of welcome the ghosts at this point, like Omegle ghosts, you know.
I would not. That shit was fucked up, and that would be extremely scary IRL. And also just like, I don't know. Imagine like being on Discord and then like something joins and it like has its camera on. It's just like a guy like in a room. Guy in a room is very scary.
Well, guy in a room is scary, but like not. I'll just hang up. Like that's I don't know. that doesn't.
Just scare turn me. The computer off. How is cyberbullying real? Just close your eyes.
I mean, true. The thought of like the unregistered cams or like that doesn't bother me at all either. Like
that stuff just like appearing though. Like that's kind of weird. Like I'd be weird. Weirded out by that. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'd just be like,
Especially the way that it happens to, was it Takuji? or no, it happened to the college kid. The way that it happened to the college kid, who's after Takeuchi. I forget his name, but when he's like, oh yeah, like it just like pops up, like, can your computer turn on by itself? And then like you see him like pick up the Ethernet cord and it's like not connected. Yeah, like I would literally I don't know, it'd take me maybe 30 seconds to have my computer out in the dumpster. Like I'm just not dealing with the shits.
Really? So okay, so
what do you mean really? Yeah, shit's haunted. I'm smashing it with hammers and throwing it away.
This is.
I'm never touching technology again after that, too. By the way,
this is fertile soil. So, do you believe in ghosts? We should be recording this at night.
We should be recording this tonight. This was a terrifying night watch.
Yeah.
For the beginning. Like again, like it gets to a certain point.
Yeah.
For me, it was a little before the explosions. When they were like out like walking.
Yeah. Totally lost all suspense for me.
Yeah, there were still a few suspenseful scenes where like it was like really tight shots and like they've got like the creepy music playing. But then like when it got to like the wider shots and you see there's like no one around, I was like, oh, all right, wow, fine. But yeah, I don't believe in ghosts strictly speaking. I guess. Yeah. I say that, but like. Yeah, a little maybe. I'm willing to suspend my disbelief quite easily with that.
Really?
Yeah. When I was growing up, I would ask my mom about the guy with a walker and like an air tube.
What? Oh God.
Who I saw several times at my family Christmas parties when I was like very, very young, apparently, right? And he died when I was like just born, right? It was my Uncle Tom. Not actually my uncle. He was the uncle of the generation before me, of like my mom and stuff.
Sure.
But he died when I was like 6 months old or something. So like the rational normal side of me is like, oh, that's just your brain like pattern matching because you saw him once before in like a family setting, and so like it that got injected into your memories of family settings as you were growing up. But apparently I would ask my mom that like every time after Christmas parties until I was like 8 or something, and then like I mean I don't really remember it, but then she would tell me about it later, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that. She'd be like, yeah, why'd you like always ask about him? And I was like, I don't know.
I was 6 years old.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know. He would just like walk into the basement. I want to know what's down there. And like, yeah. So I was like, all right, like, sure. It's difficult to be like, oh, like, no, of course not. When, like, yeah, sure, I've learned a lot of like random stuff about like physics and whatnot, and like, oh, like what's real, what's fake. But still, like lived experience is tough to, get over, I guess.
That's fair.
Why? What about you?
Not even a little bit. No,
yeah, right, fair.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't even. The problem with me is that like I can't suspend disbelief. Like I want to be a crystals and herbs girly so bad. Like I have all the stuff. I have an altar. I have the herbs. I've got like all the shit set up with my books, and I can't be like, this is really enriching my life energetically. Like I can't. It's nice to look at. I enjoy the aesthetics, but I can't like physically cannot put myself in the emotions to believe.
So how much do you believe in astrology?
0. I mean,
0.
Like,
so
I believe I don't believe that there is any kind of preordained whatever from the stars, but I think it can be a useful tool, like many personality tests and whatnot, of like understanding yourself, being given information so that you can better, kind of like analyze your beliefs and your personality and your behaviors, even if you're comparing it against something that you deem to be not true. If I'm like, the Aquarius horoscope says that you're going to make a lot of money, this week. Then you can either be like, oh yeah, I probably am going to make a lot of money because I'm doing this. Or you're like, no, I'm not going to make any fucking money this week. But then you're still understanding yourself better because you have something to compare to. So.
Yeah, for sure. I was just saying that because I've seen a lot of people take astrology to a very like mathematical standpoint, right? Where they're like, oh no, like everything matters. Like I have to know like the exact like location, time, yada yada, that like you were born, and like based
normal.
off of that, right? I know, but like based off of that, I'll also say like
because it's deeper than just a star sign. Like there's all kinds of
right.
Yeah,
sure. and then like it's like, oh, okay, like depending upon like when certain events happen, like celestial events happen after that, they like will coincide with like certain parts of your life, yada yada. It's like, okay, cool, I get that. I've just seen people take it to like a sort of interesting place, where they seem extremely rational about it, and like a lot of the argument just comes down to like, well, like the moon affects the tides, right? Like, why wouldn't it affect you a little bit? And it's like, oh, okay, sure, I guess, like, fine. So I don't know. I think that's a good way to like, if you're like hyper rational about it, it's like a good way to sort of break that down a little bit and be like, well, like here's your first step of like suspension of disbelief. Like, well, if it can affect like other things, why couldn't it affect you? Isn't that like
sure?
Little,
but is the effect my personality or my behaviors? Probably not. It's probably more
right.
I don't know. You know, it's just I find a lot of that stuff. I don't really care if people believe those things, like, or like woo-y things, whatever, you know, on a personal level. But I do think that the opportunity for grift is so high.
Yeah.
So I kind of don't like that people do that in a way, but or kind of buy into those things, because it leaves them susceptible to being taken advantage of or being influenced, by grifters or grifty types. So,
I mean, I think it's good to approach it with like a natural, like, disbelief, right? I mean, I'm very skeptical about it. Whenever I talk to someone to begin with, I'm always very skeptical. I will give them the benefit of the doubt in many ways, but like it definitely sort of casts, not dispersions, but like it casts their character in a certain light if they like wholeheartedly believe certain things about that, because it's like, okay, well, like any sort of like superly strong held woo belief, it's like, well, I don't know, man. Yeah.
He's tugging at his collar. Yeah.
I think it depends. Yeah.
Tunes. It's kind of tunes. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like I don't get easily creeped out either. And so ghost movies in general don't really bother me. So that's part of this movie's problem.
Having been to a haunted house.
Okay, I get startled easily. My startle reflex is very sensitive.
Okay.
I'm not arguing that. But if you were like, hey Lane, walk through this, and like if there were no jump scares, I'd be like, yeah, this is just a tent. Like, it's fine.
Right. But are you not startled because of the atmosphere? Like, does that not add to it? No?
No, I don't. Okay. I mean, no. I'm very easily startled all the time. I get snuck on easily. Yeah, snuck up on.
Okay, because, like, at least for me, like, if I'm in, especially, like, a more casual setting, I do, like, I'm a little bit more, like, tightly wound than most people, right? So, like, I'm not very often startled because, like, I know that other people are there, right? It's like, all right, like, fine, this is very normal. But if I was, like, I don't know, in any abandoned, I don't want to say warehouse, but like anywhere that's abandoned, and I was to hear something like a person talking or like just anything seems off, like, yeah, my alarm bells are going the fuck off because I'm already at like a really high tension like state. I'm trying to get the fuck out.
I'm not. I guess I'm like, of course, if I'm in like a scary place that's actually scary for a reason, like an abandoned place that, you know, maybe there's someone there. Or like a place where there could be violence or something, then sure, I might be on edge. But if you're like, this is a haunted house, like staying the night is scary, I'd be like, this is a house. Like, it's fine. These are pipes. Like that kind of thing, I guess is more what I'm saying. I'm not scared of the haunted house because I'm like, oh God, what if there's a werewolf here? You know?
Yeah. No, okay. I feel that. And I'd agree with that as well.
Yeah.
I've been to places that are supposedly haunted and like, I don't know. Yeah. I never feel anything from it, right? Like they're like, oh, right. like you'll feel it as soon as you walk in, like it's a chill in the air, and like
I'm like, yeah, the HVAC is on. Like...
Right. I'm like, yeah, damn, that's a nice compressor unit you got there. Like, I don't know, bro.
Yeah. So
yeah,
ghost. Yeah, ghost movies or like haunted place movies. There has to be something else going on, I think, for them to be truly scary to me. Mm-hmm. This one has it because there is, the ghosts are kind of influencing people, especially in the beginning, in the real world, and their actual behaviors. Kind of the bewitchment that people seem to undergo as they're interacting with like the forbidden rooms and whatnot. That's interesting and kind of creepy, but the ghosts themselves are like the thought of like the ghosts are haunting the world. It's like,
right,
okay,
right.
let them out.
And that's why it loses its charm, at least for me, especially as it goes on. When they're like talking to ghosts and stuff, it's like, all right, dude, cool, I get it, fine.
Yeah.
Kind of ruins the movie for me past a certain point. I was just like,
sure,
okay, whatever.
Yeah. I do think this is still a good movie, though. This is like even the back half. Yeah, it's still very interesting.
It is interesting. It's just
less scary. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as like, again, because like it's all mood for me at least, right? Like once it got past a certain point and the mood changed, I was like, all right, kind of done with it. I don't even know if I'd call it a good movie. It's an okay movie.
Really? Okay, yeah. I think that you're actually smoking crack if you think this isn't a good movie. But
I think that the first hour is a good movie, right? Like that's all good movie. And then like the back half is like a well-made but like poorly intentioned movie, I guess. Because it doesn't look bad ever.
Like just because you don't like the direction the story goes?
The direction of the story, the direction of the like tension in the plot, right? Because like previously the tension is towards some of that more interpersonal conflict, that like, again, it's the eerie, creepy feeling where we're focused on like how like individual characters are being affected by this. And it's spooky, it's creepy. And then, I mean, as it gets broader, and it's like, oh, like the whole world being overrun by ghosts, shit's exploding, like people, everybody's just dropping like flies. I was like, all right, I'm just not.
Well, I guess I don't know. I mean, while I think I would like it more if it kept a smaller or more contained story, I can't say that I think it's bad. I guess especially because we're so grounded with Michi, and her experience of like, I mean, the thought of like
being the last survivor, like, essentially, is like,
well, that, and well, I don't even mean that, even just the thought of like there are ghosts. Okay, sure, fine. Yeah. But then the ghosts are coming into reality and kidnapping people or like causing them to cease to exist because they're just as lonely on the other side as they are in life. That's pretty compelling. And I think that thread stays throughout the whole thing, even though it does like the events or like the apocalyptic stuff kind of gets so big. The emotion of her being like, kind of filled with despair because, everything is just as bad on like in the afterlife. That is pretty compelling.
Yeah. I will say it is pretty. It's not bad, right? Like, I'm not saying that it's bad. It's
because like a minute ago you said it was bad.
I don't think I said it was bad. I think I'm
going to cut this in future lane.
It's poorly intentioned, right? I said I believe I used the words.
You're like, I don't think I would say this is a good movie. Anyway,
the back half, yeah, I wouldn't call the back half a good movie. It's okay. But yeah, there's a couple compelling scenes. When she sees her friend who she like tried to save, she like did essentially save her from the ghost room, but like when she watches her disappear, that's tough, and it definitely like adds to like the emotional turmoil she's going through. It's like, yeah, that sucks, but like, it's not scary, right? Like as far as
the ideas are somewhat scary.
Yeah, I guess.
What if like you died and you were still unhappy?
Yeah, like, I mean,
that sucks. Like,
so
like you're conscious, but you're still like fucking depressed and lonely and alone and.
So I'll say, like, it's the suspension of disbelief thing for me. Like, I'll take it as far as like, oh, ghosts are real. I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? And then it's like, as soon as it goes to like, ghosts are real and they're affecting the real world, and like everyone's dying, like they're pulling people in and they're coming out. That's where I'm like, yeah, okay, fine.
Well, but don't even take it literally. I think, right, metaphorically, this movie is saying, we think of the afterlife as, and like even digitally, like a second life, if you will, as like this potential
Shout
for
out
escape.
Second Life, potential sponsor.
Right, like peace, like, right, the idea of like eternal peace, rest in peace. But like, what if there is no peace after? Not even like that there's hell. It's just kind of the same landscape of like isolation. I think that's pretty scary, and you don't have to suspend disbelief for that. Like, right? No, obviously, no one knows what happens after they die, but the idea of like, oh, it could be that you're still kind of in this like empty limbo place. Like, yeah, that's a scary thought.
Yeah, I think it's very existentially scary. Like, that's and it's presented in a good way, right? But again, I don't know, the one scene where the guy talks to the ghost and like he puts his hand on him, and
that's
like,
tough.
That's where I was just like, all right, like you've just lost me.
I wish
like,
we hadn't seen the ghost.
yeah.
Like, if it would have been scary if he was just looking at nothing, or you know what I mean, like, or if there hadn't been anything there to, like, if you were shot from the ghost's point of view.
Yeah. If there was less of a conversation,
that too.
Because like I had already gotten the point, right? Like, it's lonely on the other side. They're constantly experiencing loneliness. This is like, I would say hell, but of a different
like
form, I guess. Yeah, like a purgatory, which is just as scary. And it's like, yeah, no, that's genuinely scary.
This movie's scary.
But yeah, I mean, I think I think the first half's very scary. I think the second half is. No, I don't know. It does just lose me. I can't. I don't know. Sorry.
You're valid. I think part of what makes it less scary in the back half is the change in the imagery, not just because it becomes so big and like, like big shots of the city and like big kind of action-y events happening, but also the visual style is so specific and isolating and very just creepy in the front half, especially like all the old tech, but then even just the way that the shots are composed of like, this director loves a very specific shot. I've only seen 2 of his movies now, but kind of like a like framing people from toe to tip. They're kind of with a little bit of remove. They're kind of like at a medium distance, and they're off center. So like there's like a creepy technology, or like a big open doorway, or like a box, or
or like a water tower behind them
something.
That somebody's walking,
or a water tower. So there's something like kind of imposing on these people. It creates this very oppressive environment. But then there's also there's no close-ups, so it's you're empathetic because of course these characters are going through it, but like you don't have that. There's like a sense of remove with them. It very much feels like you are watching them and kind of surveilling them in that way because you're seeing them kind of at a distance. And so, it keeps everything feeling very still and creepy. A lot of shots that look like you're watching a screen.
Yes.
Like intentionally.
Yeah. Which is really cool. I really enjoyed that. Also with the imagery, there's one scene specifically early on where she's watching television, and the like TV announcer or whatever, it starts like glitching out.
It starts
and, like,
glitching.
Yeah, it like
his
cuts
head,
off the
like
top of his
bottom
head.
of his head or top of his head.
Yeah. And I kind of wish they had like done that more later, or like things like that later. I mean, same thing with like the scary like the rooms on the cams, the hyper cams, right? Yeah, like that stuff later in the film, even if it's just like on screens that aren't really being focused on, would be like really scary. Yeah, it would just add a whole lot, and it would keep that sort of like that vibe going, because like past a certain point it stopped feeling like, oh, the ghosts are coming from like the screens, to just like, hey, they're here, like,
yeah,
everyone's turning into a ghost. And that's again, like, yeah, just loses me. And like you said, with shot composition, we start getting a lot of those more like in the back half. We start getting a lot more of those like sort of like top down views, or like sort of like, I guess, third person over the shoulder views, where like action shots, stuff is happening, people are walking around.
Yeah,
it's not like bad. It's just like not my cup of tea, and not what I expected from the movie. And like just such a distinct change of tone that it was jarring, almost. Not even jarring, because like it did feel kind of like a natural progression, but not like my favorite.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it just it shifts tone, it shifts atmosphere. So I hear you. I think that's But I don't know. Okay, let's talk about some of the like scary imagery. So something I mentioned last week is that this movie, a scene from this movie, gets circulated as like one of the scariest things in any movie ever, right? Can you guess which scene that is, just now that you've seen the movie?
It's the ghost. It's when the guy visits the apartment and he goes into the red tape thing, and then
definitely
like the ghost is approaching him, and he like climbs over the couch or whatever. And then he's looking over the top, and it's so dark, and then you just see the face like over the top. So good. That's really good. Is it that one?
Yeah. That is the one.
Yeah.
So I had seen it before, and I was like, and it didn't, I mean, it's kind of creepy, but I was like, is this going to play better in context? And it does. Although I don't know if I would still consider it one of the scariest sequences in any movie, but it is like very, jarring the way that she moves, obviously. Like stumbling, like, you know, like she's not from this world, or like she's still kind of finding her footing on the other side.
If all of the ghosts had been handled like that, this movie's an easy 100. Like, knocks it out of the park. It's over.
Yeah, it's creepy, but I mean, you know, she's just a lady. Like, it's kind of funny that it's just like, you know, so she can't walk well. Like, who can?
No, that was really creepy. Really, really cool. Like, great visuals. I forget what movie we talked about it before with, but the framing of like seeing the top halves of people's faces, like the bottom halves.
I think it was Yojimbo.
I think it was Yojimbo. Yeah.
Yeah, because people are constantly getting their fucking limbs dismembered.
And you know, and even without getting their limbs dismembered, like you'll see like a cut visually. Where like you get like the visual dismemberment. And it adds so much. It's so cool. Such a great technique. Yeah, really awesome.
Yeah,
really awesome to see.
This movie doesn't do the dismemberment thing, but it does box them in. There's a lot of, like I said earlier, there's kind of a lot of like shelves or walls and things that kind of create a screen or create like a monitor. That makes it look like you're kind of looking at them through that.
And even just like the visual dismemberment thing, like just like framing shots a certain way where, like, I mean, like we said with the TV, and then like with the ghost there, like. You kind of get this a similar effect, but because you're not seeing any actual like violence play out on screen, to me that makes it freakier, right? Like, it's like, oh god, like it's just the top of a face, or like it's like just the cutoff bit. I don't know. Yeah.
No, I think the actual violence that we see of like people shooting themselves is kind of, not to be like, oh, that's nothing, but like it's definitely doesn't hit the same as like, I mean, when the movie opens and we get Michi goes to check on Yabe, right?
No, it's Takuji in the beginning, right?
Oh yes, yeah. And he's, the minute that he like picked up like an Ethernet cable, I was like, oh, he's about to hang himself. And that, like, just like the waiting for that to happen is so creepy. From like the sense of remove, you see him like walk away in the background and you can't see what he's doing, but you know.
Yeah.
And then the reveal that like he was actually dead the whole time, you know, and so who is she talking to? It's just it's extra. Yeah, that's really disturbing.
That scene was great. Like, everything about that was, like, A+. Even just, like, the seeing him in the background in the beginning, it's like, oh, fuck.
Oh, yeah, before he's moving.
Yeah, and it's, like, through the veil, right? So you can't really tell, and, like, it's a little dark.
Yeah,
and he was already through the veil, yada, yada, yeah, I get it, huh?
Yeah.
But, like,
it's
super cool.
I thought you were doing that intentionally.
No. I didn't know how to refer to the, like, plastic bit there, but also, like, it is through the veil, which is, like, yeah. I mean, it's very distinct imagery, but it's, like, super cool, and so, like, that's what I'm saying. Like I think because the beginning of the movie starts so strong and, like, is so creepy and so, like, atmospheric and scary that, like, as soon as, like,
off is harder.
Yeah, as soon as that's, like, that tension is gone, it's like, nah.
Suffering from success. Yeah.
Honestly, like, when we get to the factory scene where the college student guy sees the research.
Is that her name? Yeah.
Yeah. When he sees her at, like, with the gun, it's like, oh, okay, so, like, we know that she's going to shoot herself. Like,
yeah,
you kind of, like, know what's going to happen, and not in the same way. Like, the Takeuchi scene, because it's off screen, because it's so, like it's so
you don't know what's going on yet.
But yeah, and then, like, you just see it, and it's like, oh, fuck. And, like, the way his neck is distended, it's such, like,
that's
there's,
disturbing, yeah.
It's disturbing, and there's, like, even though you know it's coming, it's still very scary, and still, like, wait, what the fuck? And, like, that body's been there, like, a little bit, right? It's like, oh, what the fuck? Like, that's great stuff. And, I mean, you maybe could have done, like, a similar thing. Like, there's a lot of things that you could have done with the later scene to sort of increase that, like, eerie feeling about it, right? Yeah. Whether it's off-screened, whether you're using the, like shot composition to make it so that, like, visually she's cut off already, or, like, I don't know.
Sure.
I just think there's more interesting ways to go about it.
Yeah. I guess when they first introduce her in the warehouse, when she's kind of up in, like, the rafters and they first see her, that's pretty creepy.
Yeah,
but then it just becomes that she shoots herself.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah.
When she, like, walks into the light, as soon as she walks into the light and they're all three just, like, standing in, like, a fairly well-lit sort of warehouse, like, there's a light in the center, it's like, okay, wow.
Do you think that part of this is because we, and I use we to mean the colloquial everybody kind of we, are desensitized to suicide?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right?
So...
anymore?
I don't know. I feel like suicide has always been an issue, and, like, obviously they kind of sort of call it out in this movie. I think also culturally that might have more of an impact in Japan because of how difficult guns are
especially at
to
that
get.
Time. Yeah, true.
Well, and at that time, but also just in general, like, guns are not seen in Japan, right? It's like,
right.
Occasionally a police officer will file to have one, but it's, like, super heavily monitored, super, like, tightly under wraps. So even just to see her with a gun would be, like, very, very scary, and it's like, oh, wait, what the fuck? And suicide by gun would also be, like, extremely scary. I mean, I think, like, maybe being an American, it's kind of, like, a little different in that regard. Especially being an American 20 years later, after a lot of gun violence in this country. It's like, well, this is not nearly as scary as it maybe could have been.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe same thing with the sort of the water tower suicide as well.
Yeah.
So maybe I have, like, a different view on this, but, like, at least to me, the only spots where suicide is sort of, like, I don't want to say normalized, but, like, is talked about in, like, a casual setting would be, like, Wall Street, when people say, oh, there's, like, blood on the streets, right? You've never heard that?
What?
People...
I have, but what are you... No,
Well,
I disagree.
That's the only
I just
term
disagree
that,
so
like,
strongly. People totally talk about killing themselves all the time. As a
that's
joke,
true.
constantly.
That's true. I guess, yeah. But, well, people do use that.
And even
that's, like, a really irony
not joking.
thing. Yeah. I kind of hate so like I used to do that like a decent bit, and like I really dislike it now, just because like I don't know, I don't want to talk like about myself that way. I don't want other people who I enjoy to talk about themselves that way either.
Yeah, totally.
But like, yeah, that was a big irony pilled thing for a while. Like, great, cool.
I don't think it's just irony pilled, and like.
I mean, it's also
like it's still very normalized. I think anymore.
You think so? Like suicide in general?
I think it's still. I'm not saying that people are like, oh yeah, everything's cool and suicide's fine. I'm not saying that we should stigmatize suicide. It's just that I do think people casually joke and like half joke about those things still. Like I think it's trendy now, and I'm not knocking you, but I feel like I see more and more people being like, actually, you shouldn't. I don't like when you joke about these things because blah blah blah. And you should, like I feel like there's backlash to it now, but the backlash is still outsized by people making those jokes. So,
yeah, for sure. And I mean that's sort of just how social trends work, right? Like it became a social trend to be again. Like I think it was born out of like irony, whatever.
Totally.
And so like that became a social trend, and then maybe not a healthy one, right? And like I said, like I definitely was a part of that. And like, I think I'm a part of the ones who are like, like kind of reevaluating that. Not a big fan. So I don't know. But yeah, either way, like seeing a suicide like in your general vicinity is like horrifying.
It's upsetting.
Right? Very upsetting, emotionally upsetting. I don't even know any other way to describe it. It's terrifying,
Yeah.
It's horrible. Yeah. So.
But I just wonder if some of the impact of suicide specifically, and not just like witnessing a death, but, specifically seeing somebody kill themselves. I feel like it's a common horror staple now. And of course, the more people joke about it, the more, obvious or like the more desensitized we become to the, the imagery. Because like I'll see people will joke about killing themselves in like Instagram comments about like, people making couples memes, like in like very normal, whatever, like context, people, being like, wow, I'm so jealous of this and so sad that I don't have XYZ that I'm going to insert.
Oh yeah. My friends will do it. We'll be playing a game and like, they'll be like, oh god, I gotta download, I'm killing myself. And it's like, all right, well, like it's like the literal most inconsequential thing in the world. Like 15-second wait?
Sure. I think but what I'm talking about is, I think people with a little bit more seriousness than that, You think? So. I
would hope that it's not nearly as serious in any event, right? I don't know.
Sure. But yeah, I don't know, it, like I said, it's also become, I think, way more common in horror imagery, people killing themselves. I mean, Smile, that movie that we saw, is like basically entirely about that. So
I feel like self-mutilation has gotten a lot more up there, right? And like I haven't seen a ton of horror films, so I can't really comment on general trends. But like Smile especially was like it's suicide by self-mutilation, which is like horrifying. It's almost like they were like, oh, suicide isn't enough. Like you have to like
grisly.
It has to be grisly, and like you have to like be with them the whole time. You have to be watching this, and it's like, oh god. Versus like I don't know, especially the water tower scene in particular is like very, it's because like it's happening, it's in the background, it's like, oh god, oh fuck, please no. Like horrible sound, horrible imagery, like yeah.
Gross.
Yeah.
This imagery does stick with you. I watched this movie a few days ago, and the all of the like old tech, especially, not just like all of the violence and kind of creepy stuff, but the old tech it's a really good place to kind of ground a horror movie, because old tech is scary. Especially, I feel like the more distance you have, the creepier it gets, especially from this time period, like the beige, like, or grayish, I guess, computer casings and monitors and like wires, just like tons and tons of fucking Ethernet cables just everywhere hanging from the ceiling. It's like a crypt or like a cave almost,
Yeah. I mean, it's really cool. It does bring you back in time, like just watching it. Super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, I meant to bring this up with the remakes thing earlier that we mentioned with Psycho, but when I was looking up this movie to watch it, it recommended me the
There's
YouTube.
A remake.
Yeah, there's like an English remake that's free on YouTube with ads. After watching this movie, I cannot imagine that the remake is any good at all. Like,
no, I'm sure it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it received generally negative reviews, with more critics considering it inferior to its source material.
Yeah.
Says Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is a 2006 fucking snapshot, starring Kristen Bell, Ian Somerhalder, and Christina Milian. That is crazy.
I vaguely recognize Kristen Bell's name, but no one else there.
Kristen Bell is, she's the one married to Dax Shepard. She's from, is she from Pitch Perfect? She's forgetting Sarah Marshall. She's in The Good Place. That TV show.
Okay, yeah.
She's the blonde.
Yeah.
Ian Somerhalder's from Vampire Diaries, and then Christina Milian is a singer who
is working late.
If you know the song "Dip It Low."
Singer.
No.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so very 2006, but
hell yeah.
I mean, it sounds like it probably just kind of follows the wave of like J-horror remakes that America did in that time period, like with The Ring and The Grudge and
right.
Like, all of those.
Interesting.
Kind of like following that trend.
Yeah. Something I wasn't really quite tuned into, but okay. Yeah. I do want to watch The Ring. That's definitely on the list. Not on like my official Hooptober list or
I know.
Well, okay, all right, like
it should be on our we want to watch list. We should watch that together. That's a good ass movie.
You should.
That's a very influential movie.
Yeah. I've definitely seen a lot of references to it.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to kind of do a mini series on this show of all of those, like comparing the originals and the remakes and kind of seeing where they go wrong, because I feel like in each one,
where did they go wrong?
The remakes are considered worse, except for The Ring. The Ring, it might be the one where that's just as good as the original.
Really?
But,
that's interesting.
Yeah, the American remake is very good. It's a completely different movie, but it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes with remakes, if you follow too closely in the original's footsteps, right, it can be tough. Like, because you're probably not going to be able to live up to it, and just generally difficult to make a good remake. Which is why Psycho 1997 was so incredibly cool for how they chose to go about it.
You sound like you're selling an ad right now.
Yeah, I'm selling Psycho.
Also, Psycho was from 1998.
Fuck! Is it actually?
I'm pretty sure.
Damn.
97 was Perfect Blue, I think.
Damn it! Yeah, you're right. You're right. It was. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trolling.
I am trolling.
Anything else you want to say about Pulse from 2001? I think it's still worth watching. If you've listened to this, first off, you're an idiot for listening to this without watching it. But if you have, if you're a watcher and you haven't seen this movie, go watch it. It's good.
100%. And you know what? I feel like a lot of my criticisms of the back half probably might not be shared by very many people, right? But the praise of the first half, that's kind of, come on. You can't get away from how good that is.
Yeah. Talking to the dark moldy spot and people turning into the dark moldy spot, that's creepy. I don't like that. It slots very nicely into a guy just standing there when they shouldn't be neuroses. So, especially when it's like it turns into like I forget who it is who goes into the room and there's no one there, and then they turn the light off and they turn the light back on and there's somebody there instead of the mold spot. Like that's
Yeah, no, it's cool, and I love the general imagery around that too. Just like, especially seeing people sort of like almost curled up, and then just like they just turn into their shadow essentially, right? Yeah,
cool
movie.
Well,
next week
Next week is a Rick's pick. Do you need a hint for what they are?
No, I think I remember. I think
you don't have the years or the directors. The directors? The directors?
Yeah. So next week we want to watch Paranorman, directed by Sam Fell and Chris Butler. And it's a double feature, so we'll also be watching Monster House, directed by Gil Keenan. Keenan.
From 2006.
From 2006.
Yeah.
The other one was what, 2011, 2010, Paranorman?
2012.
2012, god damn.
Yeah, so it'll be fun. I haven't seen Monster House in a long time.
Same.
I've seen Paranorman relatively recently, but I really liked it, and I remember liking Monster House as a kid, but it's been long enough.
Yeah,
I
hell
need
yeah.
to rewatch them both.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Just a little something light in our We Want a Whale series.
Is there a W that's like slightly less than whale?
We want to...
Weeping is worse than wailing.
Oh, you think so? I think weeping and wailing sort of go hand in hand.
Because you can wail without weeping, but you're not going to weep without wailing.
You can weep without wailing. What if you're a willow?
That's true.
Also, I think weeping in general just has a more sad connotation. It sort of depends.
That's true. These are funny. Yeah. Do you have a strong history with either of these movies? Or is it just animation, spooky?
Just animation, spooky movies. I mean, I saw Monster House when I was a kid, and it scared the shit out of me. I thought it was a really cool movie. I think actually I watched it. My school would put on they would do a little projector thing, and this was elementary school, right? But parents could bring their kids in, and we'd set up a little towel or something, and you would get popcorn and whatnot. It was just it was in the cafeteria, which was twice the size of the gym because it was a cafeteria auditorium. But it was super nice. So that's a cute little memory that I have of that. But yeah. The movie genuinely freaked me out. I mean, and it was better than most any other movie I had seen at the time. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, then yeah, I'm excited. It'll be cute and easy.
Yeah,
which is always fun.
Yeah.
Nice.
Sweet.
Okay, you want to sing "Putting on the Ritz"? Take us out.
Putting on the Ritz. I don't know anything outside of Putting on the Ritz, and then because I only know it from Family Guy cutaway gags. I'll be honest with you.
Oh God, that's embarrassing for you.
I'm sorry, Lane. How often have you put on the Ritz?
I'm sorry, Ricky, is that a ghost that's emerging in your bedroom door right there? Oh my God, it's hanging from the P90X bar you have from the door frame.
If you're blue and you don't know where to go to, why don't you go where fashion sits? Putting on the Ritz. Different types who wear a deco, pants with stripes and cutaway coat, perfect fits. Putting on the Ritz.